Bring a Trailer broke all their sales records on Monday. Does that mean that the classic car market collapse and crash and correction is over, or is something else going on? We're going to examine that. Plus, we're going to go over the predictions that we made on the last episode, and we've got all new predictions. This is Bid Nerds. The bidding starts now. Bid Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Hagerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds. We're going to try to get this show on the road. Good afternoon, good evening. It is time for a live episode of Bid Nerds. I am John Polnik here in the Container Park in downtown Las Vegas. We've got Wade Bennet from Tech Daily also in the Rami studio tonight. And I think we even have my partner, Michael Deeb, in San Francisco. How you doing, Michael Deeb? What's going on?
I mean, as long as I can be here, I'm happy to be here.
All right, we're not going to talk about the technical issues. We're just going to get right to the show. Thanks for waiting for us to get started. This is a live show, and we are jumping in. We see there's lots of people hanging out in the nerd herd. Thanks, you guys, for getting ready to go here. Let's hear. We're going to shout out to our good friends at Godden Porsche and Godden Classic of Las Vegas. If you need parts or service for your classic Porsche, or you're looking for a classic Porsche of your own, give Godden Classic a call. Plus, if you're going, hey, you guys were 20 minutes late for your live show, that's probably because you have a watch that works. Maybe that's because you got your fine Swiss watch repaired and serviced at Oursmiths. Oursmiths.com, fine Swiss repair. All right, we are going to get to this show. This is the show where we analyze the listings from BaT, Cars and Bids, P-Car Market, and more. We're looking at some crazy data this year, or not this year, but today and this week. We had a crazy week last week with the 4th of July holiday kind of really messing with a lot of auction results. And Monday, it turns out, Bring a Trailer smashed all their previous sales records. They had just a crazy record day. And we want to talk about why that is. Michael Deeb, do you have any theories on why BaT did so darn well on Monday?
No, I think if they have a record day, I just think it's because they front loaded a lot of high worth cars on the same day. I wouldn't say that has anything to do with the market, other than there's a lot of good metal in the market right now. People are, for whatever reason, trying to get out of their assets. Probably a fear that they're depreciating. So there's a lot of, we're right in the middle of the summer season, which is car season. So I just think if they have a record day, it's because they happen to have a lot of several $100,000 cars all closing on the same day, and they got it right. A bunch of them closed, a bunch of them sold, and therefore they set, or smashed a record. But I don't think it's anything outside of that. I would not say that has anything to do with the market.
Wade, what do you think?
I think it's two halves of a whole story. Part one, it was a holiday weekend. They didn't do anything for the 4th of July. There was an extra day or two on some of those listings, so it may have grouped a bunch of them together. That could have been it and inflated those numbers just a teeny bit. I think the other thing is, it is a holiday weekend. People are home. They're with friends. They're with families. They're drinking. They're boating. They're having a ball. And they maybe accidentally bought a car or two in the heat of the moment with everyone around them. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, the results from last week definitely don't bear that. Most of the results were pretty poor last week. I think the reason why Monday was so strong is because there was a lot of pent-up interest in getting back. Okay, I'm back to work. I'm back in front of my computer. And you know what? I'm going to go check on BaT because I haven't in 4 or 5 days. And, there's a car I want. Okay, boom. But I think there's something to be said about maybe front-loading some metal. I don't know. I guess Sotheby's had a really good day, probably one of their best days. But that's because they sold, how many cars do they sell? 3 or 4 a day or something?
Yeah.
And they sold a Ford GT. So, a $5 million car has a way of, affecting your overall sales numbers. But let us know what you guys think. Why did BaT have such a good day on Monday? And let's go ahead and start looking at some of the results from last episode. and see how maybe this whole phenomenon may have affected the cars that we were talking about in the last episode. What was the first car on the list, Michael Deeb?
JP circling right back to the 1962 Lincoln Continental convertible that was on BaT out of West Hartford, Connecticut. This car with incredible provenance, apparently up in, up there by the, the Niagara Falls in Niagara County, at a parade back in period 1962. President John F. Kennedy allegedly rode in this very car. The car looks to be in outstanding condition in white with the red interior. And I thought because of the provenance and because of the colorway and the condition of this car could sell for $96,200. John, you took a $24,000 under at just $72,000. And Buddha, aka Mike Myers, Queers for Gears, was in studio with us. Buddha took an under JP at $68,000. Wade Bennet, this car has incredible cachet to Kennedy because it was this very model that he was later shot in Dallas, but not this exact car. This is a car he apparently rode in. What do you think this car would have done, post holiday week on Bring a Trailer?
I think I'd only be looking at the car itself and ignoring the fact that JFK may or may not have breathed on it. I'm gonna say it's maybe a $60,000 car. These are really popular, especially the resto modded ones, the big modernized, crazy looking ones. But a classic car that I can't possibly imagine. It's not the presidential car. It's not a personal vehicle. I don't think. It doesn't sound like it. So
it did have a placard on the back saying that he was in it. Just FYI.
Okay, yeah. So we're going off of Seinfeld John Voight reference at this point. It's like it may or may not, but that's fine. I personally don't put much weight in that, but maybe someone did. I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, well, and somebody did. Our car hammered for $110,000. Oh. JP, where it failed to sell on 20 bids. Can you believe they turned away $110,000? I want to start by saying, Wade, when you say $60,000, you're basically in the money. That's kind of what these cars typically bring. The really nice ones can bring in the $100,000 range. This one got to 110. And this guy thinks just because JFK may or may not have had a burrito the day before he took a ride in this car and farted in the seat, that his car is worth more than 110. Fool, you should have taken the money. John, this is a massive mistake by the seller to not let this car go. I don't care what the reserve was. Once this car broke six figures, you should have yanked the reserve and taken the money. I don't know where you're going to get more now that this car with this provenance has failed to sell on the largest auction platform in the world. JP, I dare you to disagree with me.
Yeah, I mean, this seller brought the magic bullet. I mean, this is the bidders in the grassy knoll. They got to reopen the investigation and figure out what the hell happened here. There's got to be a conspiracy behind this guy not taking that much money. Once again, Gerd is always the winner. He was at 105. There's no reason that this, unless like JFK's body is in the trunk, there's no way that this car should have brought that this seller shouldn't have sold his car. Wade, what do you think of that result?
That is crazy. I agree and again. This is there was no reason not to take it, and I truly do wonder what the reserve is and how much weight the seller was putting on this rumor, on this plaque, on this whoever said that JFK might have touched it. I mean, okay, fine. But if you end up getting almost 2 times the value on arguably a decent car, but it's not that special of a car as it sits, you should have taken that money and run this. The thing about this car too now is I think it's tainted. I think the seller is cooked. The car's tainted. Where do you go from here? Are you going to private party list it somewhere for $250,000 in hopes nobody stumbles upon this? I mean, if the seller is going to continue to parade this plaque and this association, this car is just going to have this paper trail of failed to sell and high reserves and all this stuff. And I think it's going to end up going less and less and less. And a year from now, he'll be happy to get 50 for it. I mean, what does he expect is going to happen?
Well, Gerd, the expert, says that there was one that went in May for $187,000. Gerd, did that one have a president in it? Did it have Marilyn Monroe? Did Did the president bang Marilyn Monroe in the back of it? I mean, I don't know. This whole thing is just really crazy to me. I like the car, but yeah, don't get it. Let us know what you guys think of the results of this failed to sell but super high number. I mean, this definitely goes counter to the idea that the market is collapsing. It doesn't it, guys? I mean, what the hell?
Yeah, like I said, I think outside the provenance, I mean, that's a ton of money for this car that arguably isn't built, it isn't resto modded. I've seen in Barrett Jackson and some others, they make beautiful, slammed inside and out redone Lincolns that have gone for 150 or 200,000, but that's not this. This seems to be a decently maintained regular old car.
110 was definitely all the money. He should have taken it.
Yep. All right. Let us know what you guys think, and let's move on to the next car that we talked about on the list. What do we got?
JP checking back in on our 1984 Porsche 911 Carrera Coupe on P-Car Market. This car I loved because it looked like my old turbo look Ruby. This car is painted Rubino Rot Metallizzato, and our car in San Diego had just 28,000 original miles. This looks like a very nice condition and an unusual colorway for the first year of the 3.2 Carrera. We thought that even P-Car Market could sell this car for a retail number because this looked like one of the more no-nonsense auction listings that P-Car has listed, or at least that we've covered in a while. With that in mind, JP, I thought this car had a chance to get to $75,000 where I thought it should sell. JP, you took the over at $79,000, and Buddha, Mike Myers, was in studio with us. Buddha gave us a bid, ever the more bullish, he gave us, bearish, $65,000. Wade, what do you think? Low mile, first year of the 3.2 Carrera. It's a standard range color, but not a common color. Does that make sense? So this was not paint to sample, but it's a rare shade. What do you think?
Sure, rare shade, beautiful car, beautiful color. Sad to see that it doesn't have a ton of miles, but hopefully the new owner, if it did sell, drives it. I think it probably hit 80. But I don't think it's sold. It might be sitting in the chum bucket. I'm going to guess 80.
80. All right. So not bad. Our car, and again, P-Car Market does not list the, anyway, it's really kind of a mess, JP. This platform is such a mess. I have to go and count the bids. So JP, our car actually hammered at $69,000 where it failed to sell on 19 bids. It is currently shown on the platform with a current offer of $70,000 on one bid. That's a post-hammer offer that was not accepted, and it is offered for sale in the chum bucket, what P-Car Market calls the deal tank, for $82,000. So Wade, you were very close as far as what it's in the chum bucket for. But JP, this car missed 70 grand by a grand. Post-hammer, it got 70 grand. Guys looking for $12,000 more. I just, man, 82,000 for an 84 Carrera. Do you think that's realistic?
I do, actually. I mean, I don't know. I think that there is actually a correction happening, and I think things are softening down. We've seen SCs get with low miles get up into that 80 number, and sometimes even six figures if they're really, really nice. This car seems really, really nice. I think it's just, once again, a P-Car Market fail. I think that P-Car Market's reputation is starting to catch up with them, given that the market is slowing down. For the longest time, P-Car Market could get away with anything because the market just was like, there were so many buyers and so much money sloshing around and so many people wanting old Porsches that it was like, all right, well, anyone who has one for sale can sell one. But now P-Car Market, they can't get away with this stuff, even though I don't think there was anything bad about this listing. The photos were okay. They weren't great. It could have been done better, but it was an honest listing, and the car seems really nice. 30-something thousand miles for a Carrera. Yeah. Hell
28? Yeah. It wasn't even 30,000. You could put 30,000 miles on it. Yeah. So,
Wade, what do you think of the result? Oh, sorry.
There you go.
I was just going to say, I agree with JP. I think this car took a 5 to 10% hit or gap in what it probably could have gotten on Bring a Trailer versus P-Car Market. I think the pictures are a little rough. The guy's, forehead's in the reflection of the window in a couple of these. But if it were represented well at Bring a Trailer, super low mile, interesting color, great, history, well-maintained car, I think it hits 80 on Bring a Trailer. But I think given all the effort and the fact that, the guy's kind of close, just 75, call it a day and move on, because I don't think holding it much longer is going to do you any favors unless you do put in the effort again and list it on Bring a Trailer and spend the time and spend the money and maybe have someone else represent it. But depends on how committed you are in doing all that.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you tried to sell it on PCAR Market and you want to try again, you're looking at waiting 3 or 4 weeks to get on BAT. What other option is there to sell cars right now? It seems like cars on Marketplace or Facebook or Auto Trader, nothing's selling anywhere except the auction sites. That seems like the only way to get rid of a classic car right now, because you need that national audience. If you're just limiting your outreach to the community for people that might want to buy the car to just like your local listings, there's just not enough people interested in these things. You have to go with a national audience. And I don't know. What do you think, Deeb?
I even think that take is antiquated because the news and the market is changing and so volatile. John, you and I, we pick typically 3 cars for the show, but we usually list 4 or 5 on our shared doc. So over the last 2 shows, we had 10 cars listed. 6 of them failed to sell, just in the stuff that you and I are covering. So right now seems to be really tough. I think what you're saying was true going into the higher interest rates and a softening of the market. But today, I don't think there's a guarantee you're going to sell your car no matter what platform you choose, even BAT.
Well, I mean, I didn't say that. I wasn't suggesting that there was a guarantee. I'm saying, what's the best likelihood? It seems like BAT is the only chance you have of selling it. There seems like no chance of selling it anywhere else. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Fair enough.
Yeah. Are you guys seeing results on your local marketplace, or what's your favorite platform to sell a car if it's not an auction site? If you're just trying to unload a vehicle or something like this, a classic, what do you think is the best way to get it gone? Let us know in the comments. And what was the other car that we analyzed on the last episode?
All right, JP, we're going to check back into our fugly car of the week. Randy Bloom, who, by the way, has a 3rd excused absence. Apparently, he's out to dinner with a client. Can't bother to be watching our show tonight. Hope you have a nice dinner, Randy, and that your client sticks you with the bill. He selected for us, ironically, this 2008 Chevrolet Corvette Coupe with a Valara body kit, an LS3 V8 that makes about 430 naturally aspirated horsepower. This car has the Z51, which I believe is a performance handling package, and the 4LT packages on Cars and Bids. The donor car, John, has 77,000 miles on it. And this car is parked in Chicago, Illinois. Not exactly the nicest place to have a collector car because the winters can be so harsh. JP, none of us, I mean, nobody in the herd, neither you and I, thought this car would do very well. But Cars and Bids, Doug DeMiro, and the weirdness that exudes over there proves that even ugly cars get love too. John, I said $38,000 where I thought it would fail to sell, but I also thought that he should take that money if it got there. You took the over at $39,999. And then below me was Buddha, a.k.a. Mike Myers, Queers for Gears. He was in studio with us. He gave us a bid of $36,986. Wade, this car has what we think is about a $50,000 body kit on it. The interior is stock. The donor car has high miles. And it's just I can't even remember, C6 or C7 Corvette. It's not like
C6.
It's anything special.
Yeah.
C6 Corvette. So what do you think?
So, first off, this car has been haunting my nightmares. I see it posted. Cars and Bids has been posting it on Twitter. I think they were running it like as an ad or something. I don't know. I've seen this car so many times throughout the week, and it just gets scarier and scarier every single time. My only other question, having not known this, is this car done? Like, is the body kit painted?
Complete.
Like, this is it. This is okay. So
it's Hockenheim silver paint job.
This is a completely finished car.
Look at that
allegedly.
armrest. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
I mean, the $31,500 definitely failed to sell. I'm sure this guy wanted 50 or 60 grand for it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Check it out.
It's a $40,000 Corvette, probably put together. I mean, it has super high miles, but I don't know. I don't know who would want this. I don't know why you'd want it.
At 80,000 miles, I think you could get a Z06 for $40,000. And this is just a base car with 430 horsepower. Believe it or not, guys, and I'm glad you're both sitting down because I wouldn't want there to be an accident. Our car hammered for $63,475. Success! No, it failed to sell on 23 bids. They didn't take the money. I assume he probably got scared he was also going to win a Lincoln or something. I can't believe he didn't take that money. $63,475. JP, it just goes to show you, if you're dumb enough to put a $50,000 ugly body kit on a base Corvette C6, you're also dumb enough to say goodbye to the most amount of money anybody's ever going to offer you for your used up piece of. So JP, talk about it.
Yeah. Look, there were shenanigans going on with this auction. That number is absolutely bonkers, of course. This auction got something like 23 bids, I believe. But the last two it was somewhere in the range of $30,000, I want to say. I'm trying to find, there were so many post comments after this auction. Everyone was like, BS. So this car went from a bid of, let's see here, I'll see if I can show it to you guys here. Stand by. Can you guys see this? Yeah. So 3 days ago, the bid was $35,986. Right. And then the next bid 2 days later, like an hour before close, was $62,975. I mean, is that a shill bid if you've
like
ever
fish
heard
dinner.
of one? I mean, come on. Who jumps? It's one thing to take a knockout punch. That is one of the theories. A lot of people take that approach. They say, okay, look, here's a particular car. The bidding isn't, people are bidding small increments, and it's kind of like playing poker. It's like going all in. It's showing, hey, I'm serious. You get a knockout punch. Let's say it's at $35,000. You put $5,000 on top of it, and then that scares away a bunch of the other bidders. But to double it for $62,975, come on, right? And then one more bid a few minutes later at $63,475. What are these weird round? What are these numbers? These odd numbers too. It's like, and that was it, and that killed it, and it didn't sell. Wade, what happened here? What's going on? What do you think?
My jaw's still on the floor. There's so many things wrong. I mean, first off, we don't have to get into the specifics of it, but I would seriously look into those two bids and the profiles and see what the deal is, because, like you said, there are knockout bids and then there are things that don't make a ton of sense. Obviously, if there was a 1 in front of a $35,000 bid, and that wouldn't make sense. And sometimes people typo, fat finger, whatever. But that seems like a suspicious and specific sort of bid. And then another one, it's almost like, I don't know, entice people or show that like, oh, it's okay. There's two people who seem to think this car is worth $60,000. Maybe there is, and if that person exists, this car should have sold. I mean,
Totally.
I mean, there's no reason for it to not sell. I don't know if this listing includes any of the original parts or anything, but I mean, at $63,000, if the body kit actually was $50,000, the car without the body is probably worth $13,000. So there you go. That's all the money.
Yeah, I don't even know. I don't know if you can even really say that the body kit's $50,000. I mean,
or whatever
people in the
they
comments
said,
are saying
yeah.
it's like 20.
Oh, really?
Maybe you could double that with the amount of labor and paint and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is just absurd. Cars and bids, you got to do better, man. You got to police this stuff. Well, like, what was the reserve on this thing?
Good God.
That's one.
And who agreed to it?
Well,
like,
but
you know
yeah,
what I mean?
but if you're this particular seller and you are a bad actor, which this particular seller clearly is, right? They had bad intentions. So they come into this, they put their car on Cars and Bids. Cars and Bids says, no, we're only going to give you a $35,000 reserve. And they're like, okay, that's fine, because I know I'm going to have a couple of buddies bid it up anyway. At least on... I can't remember on Cars and Bids, when you bid, they don't take the money out of your account unless you're the winning bidder at the end. Because BaT,
that's P-Car Market.
Yeah, only P-Car Market does that. Right. So oddly enough, P-Car Market has a mechanism to keep shill bidders from bidding, because if you were shill bidding on this particular car and you drop a $60,000 bid, they're going to at least hold 4% of that for a while. So, there's $3,000 that you've got to put out for a little while in order to perpetrate that shill bid. You got to get two of your buddies to drop $3,000 for a few days, or when PCAR's market, sometimes a couple of weeks.
Jeez.
It's like this whole situation. Cars and Bids, honestly, though, needs to get to the bottom of this, and they need to slam those people that were the shill bidders and make an example of them somehow. I'm not sure if they would ever bother, because why would they want that? They want that publicity? From what I understand, Cars and Bids has dropped their fee altogether to just list a car. They're just trying to get people to list cars so hard that they're like, it costs nothing. Just send us a listing and we'll do it. It's only going to be the buyers that are.
I think they've had lists for free for like the last 2 or 3 years. It's actually been a while, but lots of
they've had lists for free for dealers for quite a while, but not. Yeah. I don't think for sellers until fairly recently. I know it hasn't been years, maybe months, but I don't know. Maybe somebody in the comments or in the Nerd Herd knows, so let us know.
Yeah. Peter George says shady deal for sure. And then John, before we jump to commercials, Ingo from Genau is in the herd with us tonight, and he wanted to know if we would have brought up, JP, did you see the email that BAT sent out where they're doing a final bid for cars that failed to sell, reserve not met? So if you're the high bidder, you get to, in a secure line through the platform, reach out to the seller and make one more final bid. So in other words, you bid $60,000, you were the high bidder, the car didn't meet reserve, it's reserve not met. You can reach out and increase your bid post hammer one more time. Say you go to $63,000 and he had a reserve of 70. He sees your bid. He gets one opportunity to respond to you with a counter offer. So he wanted 70, you're offering 63, say he hits you at 65. If that is accepted, then you guys consummate the deal and it still goes through bring a trailer. And then if the car qualifies, it might go through this new secure checkout system that they do as well. But this is a new thing. And Ingo was saying that might affect that Lincoln where the car was bid up to $110,000, but it failed to sell. It's entirely possible that program is launched this week, that the high bidder was offered an opportunity to reach directly to the seller and make a post-hammer deal, and then theoretically the seller could have countered that offer. So this is a new feature for them. It's a little bit like the deal tank, but not quite. What do you think, JP?
Well, I mean, it's not much different from the way it's always been. The high bidder always has an opportunity to. They always put the high bidder and the seller together to see if they can make it happen. I guess this is a way to automate that a little bit more.
And keep it in-house.
And keep it in-house. And then does that also give BAT an opportunity to bridge the difference, kind of like they would otherwise in a regular auction? If somebody gets within that margin, right? We always talk about that.
Great question.
If someone brings it into the money, essentially, and the difference is let's say smaller than what the buyer's premium would be, oftentimes BAT will make up the difference. Does that come into effect here? My guess is maybe.
Yeah, great question. We don't know.
And that seems like a great idea, honestly. For a post. I actually really like that, because that is a twofer when it comes to the opportunities to get the car sold for the seller. I mean, that's innovation, man. You got to adapt or die, and it'll be interesting to see what the other platforms do, if anything, in response to that. Wade, what do you think of that new rule?
I have 2.5 thoughts. Thought number one, Mecum, the live auctions do that. They have their Mecum rule where you can bid on top of yourself to try and close the gap or meet the reserve. Cars and Bids, on some of their listings, it'll say the car sold afterwards, and I don't know if the price that's shown is the price it sold after, or if it was the high bid and then it says it sold after at a mystery price. And my half a thought is I wonder, is Bring a Trailer going to say what it actually sold for like historical reasons?
That was my question, yeah.
If not, I mean, it helps Bring a Trailer, I guess, but it doesn't really help the community and the car itself. I mean, if we found out, 3 or 4 days from now that Lincoln actually sold for $165,000, that would be great for the seller. It'd be great for the buyer. It'd be great for the car itself.
It'd be great for the market. Great for the market, because it'd be a comp. Yeah, totally.
So I don't know. I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's really good. Really good question.
Very interesting intel. Thanks for the folks at Genau for bringing that to us. We got to get him back on the show. sometime soon. And all right, we're going to be right back with brand new predictions. We're going to see if things are great in the classic car market or if there really is a correction. We'll be right back. Stick around. This is going to be very long at all. Hey guys, I gotta tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you gotta call our friend Steve at Godden. This guy. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around for a hot episode here in Las Vegas. 120 degrees, blowing my sleeves off. We're gonna go after some predictions. What do we got what's the first car on the list, Michael D? What do we got? Let's go. Let's do this thing.
All right, JP, with all the shamelessness I could muster, I am shamelessly plugging my own listing on Hagerty Marketplace. It is a 1987 Porsche 911 Carrera Cabriolet listed on Hagerty out of New York City. This is a G50 cab, black on black on black, with just 65,300 miles on it. JP, this car sold in 1987 by Bruce Canepa, and Bruce Canepa allegedly is the dealer that did the dealer-installed turbo look package. This was not a common practice by any stretch of the imagination, but in this particular instance, the pieces were purchased to make this car look like a turbo look. So the 930 fenders were welded on. The car was fitted with larger Fuchs wheels, 16x7 in the front, 16x9 in the rear. The car was given the waffled finned turbo valve covers, and the car was upgraded to Bilstein green dampers. And so the Bilstein green struts appear to be in the front, and then there's been an upgrade to Bilstein sport yellow shock absorbers in the rear. This car, JP, is very honest and very clean. It actually just got a PPI, and I can sort of whisper to our audience that it came back with a very clean bill of health. Really, the only thing on here that I think the next owner might have to incur if he were to purchase the car is that the belt is no longer on the AC system. The pump does turn, but the system probably needs a charge and maybe a few grand or a few bucks in refreshing to get the system working at its optimal thing. But what we're talking about, JP, is a numbers matching. At least all the numbers on the car match what is on the COA. The COA is provided to the new owner. The car's in New York. It's had a few owners. It's really, really nice. The dealership, Manhattan Motor Cars, did the PPI, and they whispered very candidly to the person who paid for the PPI. They said, cosmetically, the car is outstanding. And then there's just a few little things that, like any G-body, JP, you could throw $5,000 at them and it would look and drive exactly the same. So, John, really nice listing, very fastidious seller. It's my great pleasure to represent this car because it's got a very interesting provenance. There is a sales document from Canepa to this car in period. We could not find a document that proved that Canepa did the build. Allegedly, there was a phone conversation between my seller and Bruce. Bruce said he remembered the car, but records do not go back to the 80s, so he had nothing that could validate that this was the car that he remembered doing back in period. So very interesting car, John. If this were a G50 triple black actual M491 turbo look package car with 65,000 miles, we'd be looking at a car that's right around $100,000. But I think this car being a black on black 911 Carrera Cabriolet with the stuff added on and by a very reputable person in some way, this car is going to prove to be an outstanding value for somebody who wants the look but doesn't want to pay the money or pay through the nose for one of those rare models indeed. Bobby Singh is the independent Porsche mechanic in Connecticut. He used to be the chief technician at Manhattan Motor Cars. He left to open his own shop. My seller has owned 4 Porsches, and Bobby Singh is the only one that's ever touched them. So he is the one that's presided over this car, and it's I don't know. I think it's a really neat car. John, I had wanted for you for the last 2 years to buy this car off my guy. The car has now come to market. It closes tomorrow. What do you guys think?
Yeah, man, a triple black convertible wide body. I love the possibility or the opportunity or the idea of getting that wide body 491 look without having to pay the 491 premium. I could care less if it's a real 491 or not. So I would love to drive this car. I love to see that our friend Chris Carbine likes this car. He says he even wants it. I thought Chris was a cabrio-phobe, so I'm glad to see that he's coming around. Maybe he's being influenced by my black cabrios. I love that this particular car is a G50 car too. This is kind of the best of all worlds here when it comes to old school air-cooled 911 drop top, 5-speed G50. Can't go wrong. Wade, what do you think?
The only thing that can go wrong is we'll die of heat stroke if we're driving that around now. Give me this car 4 months from now, and I will really enjoy it. In the meantime, though, I think it's a beautiful car with a great story. I mean, the paint on this car looks wet. I mean, this is a beautifully detailed, beautifully represented car. Great pictures, great inside and out. Really interesting story, too. And like you said, JP, this is an opportunity to get a car that maybe you don't have to spend the extra 30 or 40 or 50 grand on to get something that looks great, is similar. It has the perks, the packages, the parts, the pieces. I think it'll probably be a good deal in a way, but a high dollar car for what it is, as it should be.
Yeah. All right, what's it going to bring, Michael Deeb? This is your list. So just to be clear, guys, this is not Michael Deeb's car. He works for Haggerty. Haggerty doesn't sponsor this show yet, but Michael is representing this car on Haggerty Marketplace. So what's it going to bring?
So JP, you know how sometimes it just goes wrong when you go to get a car to market. So Wade's being really nice and saying it's great photography. It's terrible. I literally asked a colleague of mine, I don't want this car shot in a parking space in Lower Manhattan. And the car got parked in a parking space in Lower Manhattan, pulled out of a parking garage and brought to under this tree where they shot the photos. And he sent me the batch of photos. And John, I was just like, you gotta be kidding me, man. Like I was just brutal the way it goes. But when you're not there,
so it's okay.
Yeah,
faces,
I know.
There's no toes on the ground. I mean, it still looks nice.
I wish the car was cleaner.
They're honest photos. We'll give it some love, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I know. So thank you guys for being a little bit too nice. So JP, just for context, we saw a 30,000 mile G50 cab in red with a crema interior failed to sell at $51,000. Marcar is sitting at $45,000 on 19 bids. This is a reserve auction. Because it's mine, I will not provide a bid. But the question is, if a G50 Carrera cab with low miles fails to sell at 50, I know Guards Red's not everybody's favorite, but it is kind of iconic for the G-body cars. And this being a turbo look would be in the value range of 100. How do you bridge that gap? And that's what I'm endeavoring to accomplish for my seller. So JP and Wade, I'll let you guys bid, but I'm going to recuse myself because it's my listing. Thanks.
Yeah, convertibles, and look, I've said it a million times in the show. I love convertibles. There it is. I'm a cabrio guy. Don't be a cabrio phobe. It's 2024. Stop being a cabrio phobe. That's my mantra. But I'll be the first to admit that cabs just don't bring the money. They do not hold up to the same values. I mean, usually they're half the value of a coupe. So if this car... man, it's tough because I love everything about it and I want it to do well. Will this car get 70 on your guys' platform? That's the number I'm going to pick and say that I think it could do that because it, you know, again, that's saving you $30,000 or $40,000 from a real 491. And at the end of the day, this is still an 87 Carrera with only 60-something thousand miles on it. That's low miles. I think it's pretty common to see, you know, G50, G-body cars, even cabrios with 120,000 miles still getting 60-something for it. So why wouldn't this one get up there in the 70? My number is going to be 70. I'll pass it on to Wade. What do you think?
I'm gonna one pip up you a little higher. I'm gonna say 72.5. And the only reason I say that is because there's 19 bids already. It could be the same two people back and forth just having a good time, but I suspect it's not. So there's a lot of eyeballs on this car already. It's not like two people have bid up to 35 grand and called it a day. It seems like there's interest, and it only takes two to go wild. And in this case, it might be 3 or 4 people who wind up really wanting this car.
Yeah, and
Excellent.
we hope somebody does. I mean, the Nerd Herd seems to agree with us. I mean, we're all the lowest I think is 62 grand, all the way up to I think someone was in at 75. Am I missing
Scott
this?
Derrickson said 87 911, but that was early. Maybe Scott didn't realize it was a non-turbo look that was built that way. That's a very high bid. But as good as the benchmark, he's at 69. Buddha's at 72. You guys are all in the money. Thank you very much for the love.
If it doesn't sell, tell them I'll trade them for my 964 cab.
Absolutely.
I would
Absolutely.
definitely prefer this one. All right. What do you guys think this beautiful 911 G50 Cabrio that's not a 491 but looks just like one? What do you think it'll bring on Haggerty Marketplace? Let us know in the comments, and let's move on to the next car. What do we got?
All right, JP. In 2013, I bought a BMW M5, and it was the first year of the new design. I think they called it F10, but the M6, I believe, is called an F12. John, you selected for us a 2013 BMW M6 F12 generation. This car has just 10,000 miles and is listed on Bring a Trailer at a Yellow House, Pennsylvania. This is also a convertible. I'm sorry, M6 convertible, finished in Silverstone metallic, and it's got a sort of a two-tone dark gray interior. These cars came with a 4.4-liter twin turbocharged V8 that made around 560 horsepower and about 500 pound-foot of torque. And these cars you operated with a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission. Now, it's interesting. The press never really loved or warmed up to my generation of the M5, the car that I bought brand new. Back in period. But I absolutely loved my car. It was unbelievably comfortable. It was quiet. It was stout. It had incredible power, and it handled amazing. I couldn't understand why they were picking it apart so badly. And then the next generation they came out, they absolutely adored, and I've never driven one. But those were all-wheel drive. I simply loved my car. So when I see this M6 convertible, it reminds me so much of the car that I had, because I know once you get behind the wheel of this thing, it's going to feel very, very similar. This car has unbelievably low miles. These things have all the bells and whistles. And it's amazing that there's like two and now dropping a third generation of this platform. And this car is now, it's hard to believe, JP, 2013, as we're rolling into 2025, this is 3 gens old, and is considered old metal. And these things are unbelievably soft in the secondary marketplace. So it's interesting to take a peek, JP, as you sort of explained before we went live, to look at what the market thinks about cars from this era. I think these cars are outstanding. I loved mine, no matter what the press said. Car got great eyeball, and I thought it was stunningly beautiful. I love this car. This convertible would be fantastic in California. I don't know how you live with it in Vegas, JP, but man, for the coast, how could you do better than this? I think this is going to be a tremendous value, and at 10,000 miles, it's barely broken in. So JP, I hand it right back over to you on a silver platter. Super nice car. Again, this platform was never loved, but I never understood why. $127,000, JP, was the MSRP to get a car that in this color. I mean, you could drive this car to California, John, or up to, say you're going home into Washington. This is a car you could do 100 miles an hour on the freeway. If you see a cop, you lift, and they would never notice you. You know what I mean? Like, this is actually a Q car, if ever there was one. And where I live, JP, that top could be down 360 days a year. Like, it's insane how much, the heated seats and the good air conditioning system. You could drive that car top down all the time. I really like this pick, JP. I send it back to you. I think whatever this goes for, top retail is still a steal in my book. What do you think?
It's a lot of car. I'm disappointed that it doesn't have the V10. Didn't the previous version of the M6
Yes.
have the V10 engine?
One year before it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just, and you can get those with manuals. So I really, really love those, and I think those are a bargain. But, I mean, let's face it, old BMWs just do not hold their value, especially it seems like the higher up the line you go, when you have M3s and M1s and the sports car versions of BMWs tend to hold their value, but these big, heavy luxury sedans and luxury convertibles and four-seaters like this, they are just, the second you drive them off the lot, they just depreciate horribly. But looking at this car, it really is beautiful. The styling really does remind you of what BMW used to be. This is way prettier than anything on the BMW showroom floor right now. If you go into a BMW store, their cars, I mean, you got to be handed a barf bag when you walk into a BMW store. Their cars are the ugliest cars. I mean, they give Nissan a run for their money, and they made things like the Rogue and the
Leaf.
And the Leaf, and I mean, they're just like the worst. BMW now looks terrible, but this car really, I think, really is pretty. And this car was kind of like built to compete with like an SL500, and BMWs have always done, SLs and Mercedes are kind of the car you get in to be driven in, whereas BMWs have always, even the big heavy sedans, kind of have a sportiness to them, and so you can appreciate that, and especially an M-line car like this, it's got to be a hell of a lot of fun to drive. And yeah, I mean, I think up the freeway it's going to be more fun than maybe literally up the coast doing twisty roads. I think you start to feel all the weight when you start diving into tight corners when the waves are right over your shoulder. But on the freeway, this thing is great. But I just don't think it's going to bring much money. We'll get to the numbers in a second. Wade, what do you think of this M6?
JP, you should buy this car so you can go drive with Wade in his Ferrari, because you could probably keep up with him. You could probably keep up with him in this car. I'm serious. Yeah, it's legit.
I mean, it's an M car, right?
It is.
Yeah.
This is also, to your point, JP, first off, this is a sleek and sexy BMW era where it was post their kind of like clunky mid-2000s weird looking bubble cars, and it was before they turned into this, EV focused, boxy, Chinese designed looking cars that are just, like you said, awful. This is a great era of car from a design standpoint, and this car in particular, it's really kind of like it's the best of both worlds as far as performance and luxury. And I would also argue it's kind of the everything car, right? It's bigger. It's not an M3 or an M5. The M6 is still a big car. It's a convertible. You get the back seats, but it's a car you want to drive because it's also an M series. It's got all of the luxury. It's kind of the car where you like, I couldn't really figure out what I wanted, so I got everything. And it's maybe not the best at all those things individually, but collectively, I think it's a great car for somebody who wants it all and then some. But to your point, I mean, at $120,000 or $125,000 new, that was a lot of money at the time. And approximately 6 seconds after this person signed on the dotted line, it was worth 20 grand less than that back then.
True.
I mean, now I wouldn't be surprised if this car is $100,000 off. With such low miles, though, I think that there's some potential for it to have a bit of a premium as long as it was well maintained and not, kind of hiding in a garage rotting away. But I guess we'll see. I hope it does get driven. I'd love to drive this car and own this car. I think this definitely is akin to my S63, but this is a little bit cooler with the convertible and the two-door and everything.
All right, what's it going to bring?
All right, JP. Again, our car is in Yellow House, Pennsylvania, showing just 10,000 miles on a car that is effectively 12 model years old. JP, $127,000 MSRP. Our car is sitting at just $16,000 on scroll 23 bids. So it's getting a lot of action, but it's got a ways to go because it doesn't close for another 3 days. John, I like this car, and I feel like the mileage is eventually going to drive the price. I'm not scared of the low bid at 16 right now, and it's not that I think the car is going to double. I just think it's going to go up to market value, where I think this car should sell for $44,000. And again, what we're talking about is 10,000 miles. This generation of car, the nicest ones are not worth this kind of money. Competition package, Bang & Olufsen system, that stuff won't matter. What's driving the price here, I think, is the low miles. It's almost like you get to buy the car brand new again. So, and it's a Carfax certified one-owner vehicle. So $44,000, JP. I do think it'll get into the 40s, and I think that's what it'll take to take it home. Where are you at?
I think it's just way too old to get that kind of money. I just don't see anyone sitting around with 40-something grand ready to drop on over 10-year-old car. Getting financing on this car, look, we all know that financing cars right now is not fun. Interest rates are absurdly high. And if you are going to get a loan on a car, the banks want to loan you money for a car that is 5 years old or less. This is well over that. This is way over that. So to get a loan on this car, you're going to have to pay above average interest rates, and above average interest rates is going to be really, really high. You may as well put it on your credit card. So I think, you're going to be paying 20-something%, right? So, I think that's going to really hurt this car, because this is not a collector car. This is not really an enthusiast car. I know it's an M6. It's not just a 6 series. This is an M car. But it's just, people aren't sitting there going, yeah, I'm really looking for a big, heavy convertible M6. That's just not on anyone's list. So I think that's going to hurt it a lot. I'm going to say $36,006 and hand it off to Wade. And I think I'm bidding kind of high, just because it's a really nice car and it has low miles. What do you think, Wade?
I don't know. I'm actually closer to Michael Deeb on this one. I'm trying to figure out if it goes over 40 or under, and it's not going to be that far away. I think it's going to go over 40, but just a smidge. I'm going to give it $41,250. I don't know if it's no reserve or not, but I think it'll sell. I can't imagine anybody hanging on to this.
It's a reserve auction, and it's being listed by a dealer. So he might be able to finance JP if JP decides he can't live without it.
Yeah, I don't know if I really don't think that anybody's going to finance this car. I think that it's going to end up going to maybe an older person who's jumping between the SLs, like you said, JP, and something like this, and maybe a very normal Porsche. I mean, I feel like it kind of fits that 40 to 60K used car kind of guy who wants something totally fun but doesn't want to break the bank. But I don't know. It might be too old, JP. I don't think so, though.
You mentioned someone like the retired person. That's actually a good take, because a retired if you just retired, you're in your minimum your 60s, right? So 2013, I'm in my 50s, early 50s, and I feel like 2013 was yesterday. So this car, look at this car, I feel like it's a brand new car, right? If you're in your 60s, you're like, oh yeah, that car's right off the showroom floor, and it looks new, and maybe they just sold their house in California and they're moving to someplace less expensive, like here in Vegas,
Bozeman.
or Bozeman or whatever, and they're gonna go hang out. They're like, I'm selling my house and I'm getting an M6 and I'm going to Howard Smith's and I'm getting a Rolex and I'm just going to flex. I'm going to put the child seat in the back for my grandkids when they come up and visit, which they never do. And at least you'll have a cool car. I don't know. I think that's interesting.
Let me say one more thing too.
Oh yeah, go for it.
As far as buying a new car, why would you want a new BMW? I'd rather have a used one that looks good and has like buttons for the AC. I don't want something that looks like it was out of Tron and there's 8 screens and everything's awful. Give me this one. Give me some buttons.
Yeah, and the new ones, they charge you for the heated seats to work, right? You got to pay money for a fee.
Yep. You got to have an account. JP, this car, if you put like one size over wheels and lower this car, this thing will look savage. Like these cars really do. It would really look good if you put some sort of BBS or something and lowered it just an inch and a half. Oh my God, this car would come alive.
But then you got to watch out for maintenance costs on these plastic gears and gizmos in there. It's BMW. All right. Talk to our friends at German Motors here in Las Vegas. They'll hook you up on the BMW service. All right, let's move on. What do you guys think of this M6? Will it bring the big money? Who is the buyer for this thing? Do you tell us who you think the person is that actually buys this car? Describe that person. I really want to see people tell me who this guy is or gal. Let us know in the comments below. And we got another car. What do we got?
All right, JP. We have for us out of Forestville, California, a 1988 and a half Ferrari 328 GTS. This car was originally a Canadian market example that now shows 64,000 kilometers, which is approximately 40,000 miles, following the seller's purchase in 2008. Again, the car is in California and on a clean California title in the seller's name. So the mileage is fair. There is something significant about 88 and a half. I just don't know what it is. I know that there's the early 88s and the 88 and a halves, and they made some switch that does something. I will tell you that the visual cue is the convex sort of shape to the Speedline wheels. Do you see how they sort of bubble in the middle? The pre 88.5 cars look concave and they kind of dish in the middle. But once they get kind of bulbous in the middle, that denotes that they're the newer style of the car. But I absolutely forget what the big upgrade was that make these cars better. In Ferrari speak, JP, the 88.5 is akin to the reputation of what a pre-915 gearbox 3.2 Porsche 911 is compared to a G50. You know, the way everybody wants a G50. If you're shopping for a 328, apparently you have to get the 88.5 because that's the better car. I, who claim to be a Ferrari fanboy, simply cannot remember what that significant upgrade was. The 328 is a mid-engine car, 3.2 liter V8. They make about 255, 260 horsepower. I think the Canadian market sort of point of origin will probably hold back this car on its pure value. The American Ferrari market is as finicky as they come, and that's saying something as a Porsche guy, but the Ferrari guys are really, really weird. So gray market cars just don't seem to get the love. I think if you can look past that, this car should wind up being a tremendous value for somebody. 40,000 miles is not that bad at all. The car looks to be in decent condition. The big question, JP, is would you drive a red Ferrari? Because, you know, there's definitely a stigma that comes with owning a car like this. Sort of missed me with the interior. You got sort of three different shades. You got a black dash, you got beige carpets, and you've got sort of these crema seats. Man, this era for Ferrari, the interiors were just deplorable as far as colorway. Really, the only way that I like these cars is if they have an all black interior. But this one is particularly like, ugh. So anyways, JP, nice car, high maintenance, Canadian point of origin. Seller notes there's a leak in the air conditioning refrigerant. I mean, buddy, if you want to get top dollar for your Ferrari, you got to fix that stuff before you come to market, or you might be DOA. You're already jumping over the Canadian maple smell that's in this car, the empty bottles of Molson in the frunk. If your AC is leaking, don't list it, fix it. You know what I'm saying? So, JP, here you go. Pick it back. What did you like about this car in this era? We know manual Ferraris are going crazy, but this right here is not a six-figure Ferrari.
That's kind of what I like about it. I mean, how do you not just love this car? Looking at it, it's just, oh man, it's just so nostalgic. It is so the Magnum PI kind of looking car. This just goes right back to the 80s, and it just, I want this car. The top comes off. I don't care that it's got rock chips and dings and little things, and maybe the seats are kind of ugly. I just don't care. These shot up in value for a while there. Guys like Matt Farah and a bunch of people got them, and prices went ridiculous. And now it's like, is this an opportunity to get into one of these that you can actually drive and not be worried about devaluing it? Is this a way? Is this kind of like getting into an air-cooled? If you're going to get into an air-cooled 911, do you start out with an SC or a G-BOT, a Carrera? I don't know. I love the red. I love the black top. I just want this car. But a few people are saying that the 88.5 was something to do with the ABS was added that year. I don't know. Wade's in the Ferrari club. Wade, what do you know? What do you think of this little 328?
So they changed up the suspension, steering, and they were doing something with ABS, either introducing it or prepping to introduce it. Yeah. So a couple, modular minor performance and driving improvements to the 88.5. I don't know how much of a difference that made with this car over the previous ones, but maybe it's something that's somewhat desirable. All in all, this car is definitely a vibe. I mean, it is exactly what it is. It's an 80s Ferrari. It's going to be cheaper than a Testarossa. It's going to be cheaper than a really nice 328, which is good. The question I have is the seller going to be reasonable? It's a Canadian market car, which Canadian market everything, especially Ferraris, don't always bring the high numbers. And there's just something about, like, I know this guy is like old, and he took these pictures, portrait with his phone in the dirt driveway of his warehouse on his farm, and it's not the best representation, but it seems like an honest and straightforward representation. He's showing the nicks and the chips and the paint and the kind of fugly interior, but that's just what this car was. That's what it had. It had the weird multicolor puffy seats and all the different things that made it that vibe from the 80s. So it's not a terrible car to have and to enjoy, but it's definitely not going to bring the Ferrari premium. And like I said, I hope they're reasonable, but I guess we'll find out.
What's it going to bring, Michael Deeb?
All right, JP, we talk a lot about on these mid-engine belt-driven Ferraris that the most recent belt service has a massive influence on what the car's value is. And so, JP, with that in mind, when I gave it to you, I started looking. So this car had an engine rebuild in 2002, and the timing belt was last replaced in 2009. The seller states that the vehicle has been stored and unused for approximately 13 years and recommends replacing the timing belt prior to starting it. John, we talked about recently, you and I were talking offline about a 993 turbo that we believed had sat for a long period of time. And you were talking about, man, you're going to have to rebuild the turbos. These cars need to be started up all the time. Even if this guy started this car up and let it idle for a while, a Ferrari from this era that's been sitting for 13 years is going to need a massive, massive major service. And I think that this car is DOA. This is a reserve auction, and I can't fathom a scenario where whatever they agreed to with BaT, that this car is going to meet reserve. Our car is sitting at $30,000, and it closes in 2 days, and that 30 grand is on just 7 bids. The average selling price for a Ferrari 328 GTS is $95,000. Initially, when I glanced at this car, I thought maybe it would get into the 80s. JP, I'm not even sure this car gets into the 60s. I think this car needs, $25,000 worth of service. You got new tires. You got to replace all the fluids. You got to rebuild the brakes. You probably need new fuel pump, new oil pump. Like, you got to do a timing belt. Like, this car needs almost everything. And then you're assuming the AC works and all this other stuff. Like, I'm almost saying you wouldn't want to buy this car unless you were a mechanic and you were going to do this on the cheap, refurbish it, and then sell it yourself. I think this car is almost cost prohibitive, and that's not even knowing what they agreed to. So JP, I'm going to write, 55,000, and I'm not even sure it gets to that, and it definitely won't sell for that number. If it does, then you're in that, well, let's do the math and see if we're going to come out okay, and pray that there's no hidden problems that you don't even know about. But I wouldn't start this car. I wouldn't turn the key on. This whole lot scares me. So I'm going to go 55 grand. The average selling price of a 328 GTS is 95 grand. I'm going 40 under, and I don't like it for anybody. I wouldn't want anybody I know to buy this car unless they turn wrenches themselves.
Oh, man, this car has lost that love and feeling, man. All the romance that I was getting from these pictures and going, oh, maybe because it's Canadian, because it's got fake shields, and because it's got rock chips, maybe I actually have a shot at this thing, but I want to break up with this chick before I even date her on the first date. I'm out, so let's call it 49, and I'm going to pass it on to, wait.
I'm with JP. Michael Deeb, you rug pulled us on this. We said some nice things. It was going to be a vibe. We were all going to be cruising up the coast in this car, and you killed our hopes and dreams. What
I didn't pick the car. Your buddy in studio picked the car, and I just, man. You know me, I read the heading. I judge every book by its cover. You know. Well,
and the tough part too is you went from, oh, it hasn't been serviced in a while, to, oh, I actually would not start this car, and it hasn't in the last 15 or 20 years.
It doesn't run. It's a project Ferrari. Yeah. Who the hell wants a project Ferrari?
Look, I mean, would it look cool mounted on the wall? I guess, but you want to drive it, I would hope, right? Dude, but here's the thing, though. There have been, in the history of BaT, and even on the show, there have been shocking results for project cars. For cars that were $8,500 hunks of metal that people paid 20 or 30 grand for. And this is a Ferrari that, if somebody who's not paying attention, or somebody who doesn't understand the amount of work and effort it's going to take to basically rebuild this car from the inside out, they may stumble into buying this car accidentally at a price that doesn't make sense. And I'm on that side of the fence. I think this car hit something stupid like $66,000, and then somebody rolls over to this guy's farm and says, I can't wait to drive this home. And he says, what? Did you read the listing?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, it's on bring a trailer. So bring a goddamn trailer for your Ferrari. Forget it.
Yeah. Is it 66 your bid, Wade? Is that
66 is my bid. It's not going to sell.
All right.
I think this person might be a little unreasonable. They probably thought they've been hoarding the Holy Grail in their barn the last 20 years.
Yeah.
Which isn't the case.
I bet you the reserve is in the 70s. I bet the buyer is expecting the 80s. And I'm telling you, I would tell everybody I know I wouldn't touch that car for $50,000. Like that car needs $25,000 worth of work sitting there. Holy God.
What do you guys think this project Ferrari will bring? Let us know in the comments below. And the Nerd Herd, you guys are rocking it. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. As usual, there are more of you in the Nerd Herd right now than I see thumbs up there. So give us a thumbs up real quick if you don't mind. We love you. Love us back. We got some new people in the herd today.
Yeah.
Do we have,
can we read one, JP?
Yeah,
Joshua Marinov says, $67,000 for the Ferrari, and with that, I'll have 3 Yahtzees. Take that, Gerd. Ooh, sick burn, sick burn. Yeah, let it wait. I like Joshua's gumption. I love it, and Gerd is always right. So this is gonna be good. Fight.
All right, guys. Vegas Auto Fest is coming up September 21st, so make sure you sign up for that and come and visit us. Make some plans to come out to Las Vegas. If you are looking to sell your classic car, you can give my partner Michael Deeb a holler, and he will help you out on Haggerty Marketplace. Wade, where could people find your YouTube channel and all your things?
I'm over at Tech Daily on YouTube. If you are tired of cars and are in the market for a new phone or want to do some tech-related things, that's where I'm at. Come say hi.
All right, we will be back Wednesday. We got a guest Wednesday. Michael Deeb, who's our guest on Wednesday?
Sunday. Today's Wednesday. Sunday.
Yeah.
So we have oh my God, my name, my brain's.
Is it Zach?
Yeah, Zach. Sorry, Zach Miller is coming. He's going to join us live on Sunday. Are we going to have anybody else in studio?
Don't know. We'll see, but we'll have it. We'll have
see.
Zach for sure. So
Zach is going to join us, third nerd. Yeah. So forgive me. Yeah, I just brain faded. But yes, Zach Miller is joining us. That's confirmed. We will see Zach Miller as a third nerd, probably from Chicago or some body of water near there. It'll be fun to have Zach back on the show.